For this 10-year-old program about the Catcher in the Rye.
To me, whatever else you say, in the back of my head, Holden Caulfield is as real a person as anybody else I know. And I think many of the young readers who pick up the book feel the same way. They come upon him, they find a kindred spirit, they find somebody who thinks the way they think and feels the way they feel. They feel isolated, he feels isolated, and they bond with him. They find some kind of bond. That's how it works for me.
Holden Caulfield is the Catcher in the Rye. He's the eternal teenager, the eternal hopefulness of the teenager, and the belief that one will never be an adult. And we all connect with that sense that he has a sort of an optimistic pessimism, maybe you could call it. I think ultimately he thinks things are all going to come out for the better, but everything in the world tells him that it isn't.
The amazing thing about Holden is that he starts off by telling us he's an amazing liar. But I look at it this way. He's one of the most honest people you or I have ever met. And so what I can say is, the people who want to censor it, they don't seem to value what honest communication, what real language, what real ideas and feelings really mean. Catcher is alive. How many books from 1951 are as alive in today's consciousness as Catcher in the Rye? I know of none.
I found out while doing the research for this program that J.D. Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye was published in the very week that I was born. In more ways than one, it's been a milestone book in my life. I can still remember sitting up all night to finish it because I simply couldn't dream about putting it down. And when I got to the end, I felt the aching sadness that comes from knowing you'll never experience such pure, first-time reading pleasure ever again. I've been a fan of Holden Caulfield's ever since, and I found other fans, quite literally, around the globe. Tonight we'll hear from a group of college freshmen and freshwomen who are studying Catcher in Florida. We'll hear from teachers. And we'll hear from various members of a World Wide Web chat room who engage in extensive discussions about the work of J.D. Salinger every day. First, though, I want to introduce the webmaster of that chat room. His name is Tim, and his job throughout the next hour will be to guide us through the sights, and especially the sounds, of Holden Caulfield's New York City. Tim says the best place to meet up would be under the Biltmore clock, which is exactly where Holden arranged to meet Sally on page 124 of my copy of Catcher in the Rye.
Paul and I are standing under what used to be the clock at the Biltmore, where Holden met Sally to go ice-skating and see the Lunts. Unfortunately, the clock's not here anymore, and the hotel's not here anymore. It's been all torn down, and it has been replaced by an ultra-modern hotel that could be anywhere, and indeed it could. It has a nice fountain in the middle, but I have a feeling that meeting at the fountain at the Hyatt Hotel just doesn't have the same ring as meet me at the clock at the Biltmore. It's a little bit generic, and I think Holden would have said, this looks phony to me.
My name is Will, and I'm a friend of Holden Caulfield's. We've walked the streets together. We've not grown up together, and when I find him, particularly in criticism generated from Salinger's fiction, we understand each other. So I read in a really strange piece of criticism by Sanford Rott, an analysis of Catcher in terms of information theory and all sorts of kind of crazy ideas. But one of the things that Rott pointed out to me is that Salinger has published about 740 pages of writing, and I haven't checked Rott's count, nor will I, but I think that's probably close to accurate. By 1980, more than 6,000 pages of criticism have been generated. And what I can say is that, you see, my take on critics is not negative. I look at critics as readers. And so what I can say is, here's critical proof that many, many careful readers, people able to look closely at a text and consider it over a period of time, have had to look at Holden as an entity, as something real in their lives. Because don't forget, when people write criticism, they're not parasites. They're not just yes or no people spouting their opinions. They're thinkers. They're experiencing literature on very deep and careful levels. Even among that crowd, Holden's alive. That Holden is a very large person in our American and Canadian consciousness. He's someone many of us know and understand, and some of us are at different points in our life.
Will's the only one with any academic credentials in tonight's program. He's 40-something, and he holds a master's degree in Salinger criticism from NYU. Half Will's age, and halfway around the world, lives a Caulfield fan and budding playwright named Camille.
I'm from Australia, Sydney, Australia. I first read Catcher when I was 16 years old. I discovered